Hello, I'm Angela DiCarlo, and welcome to Facebook Live. We are here to highlight Product Mentor and Mike Corradini. So right there in the chat box while you're here, please type in where you're from and your name. And also type in the chat if you've asked someone's opinion about starting a business in the last 6 months. Okay? So also post any questions you have. We will be posting live in the chat and responding to your questions. We have an amazing team of mentors who are here to help you. But let's get started. I've got Mike Corradini. He is the CEO and founder of Product Mentor. He is a fourth-generation entrepreneur, a graduate of USC, go Trojans, and an amazing business person that I've had the pleasure of knowing for 15 years. He's absolutely fantastic, and you're going to love to meet him. He's also developed 2 companies that have made it on the Inc. 500 list. So his team has managed over 250 startups. So they teach based on experience, not theory. So hi, Mike. Welcome to our first Facebook Live.
Hello, Angela. Thank you for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And I am beyond excited to be here with you today to really share some of what I've learned over the last 10 plus years. And what I want to do is help people avoid the mistakes that I made so that they can get to where they want to go much easier and much quicker. When you're starting out a new business and you're launching a new product, a new app, or you just have a new idea, everyone wants to know where they should start and really what they should be doing. And so I'm so passionate about helping entrepreneurs, Angela. I thought this first Facebook Live would be a great opportunity to show people the different ways that I see entrepreneurs going out there and hitting stumbling blocks so that we can avoid those stumbling blocks for them. And then I'd like to focus on what is working in today's market.
Got it. So what are the traditional ways to launch a product?
Well, since this entire Facebook Live is about the new ways, it is appropriate to start with the old ways, what I've seen people doing the last 5, 10 years, and even more recently than that. And primarily what I see people doing, Angela, in the case of a physical product or a digital product like an app or software, is they'll make it up front. So for example, they'll make 10,000 units of their product, and then they'll go out there and they'll hope and they'll pray that it sells. And it seems to make logical sense, right? To have your product before you go out and sell it. But the problem with that is if nobody buys it, you're left with all this inventory and typically a depleted budget. Same thing goes for software and apps. If you build it up front and then hope people are going to download it, hope people are going to buy it, you're going to come into a reality check when you find out that it may not be what the customer actually wants. Once again, spending a lot of your money, if not all of it up front, only to have a product that doesn't sell later.
I totally understand where you're coming from. And I know that one of your parts of your program is teaching people how to order and how to prepare. I have a client who in the past thought they were ordering cases or boxes of a product and ended up getting cases of it and pallets of it. And next thing you know, they had an 18-wheeler delivering thousands of units of a product that they thought they were getting hundreds of. So it's definitely a real world problem that I have seen in multiple clients. It's teaching them the language. And that's really one of the things that I see your program doing. So how does Product Mentor launch products if you're not doing it the order up front, and how are you doing it differently?
Well, to your point, Angela, yeah, your garage can turn into a warehouse essentially. When you do order all of that inventory up front. And so you don't want to have to do that. You don't want to have to pay for a warehouse to actually store it. But just a couple other traditional ways to touch on first before we get into the new ways that we're going to be focusing on today is licensing. A lot of inventors, a lot of first-time entrepreneurs see this shiny object called licensing. And the concept is you get a provisional patent, and then you go out there and you try to find a large company to basically pay you a royalty fee, and then they go and sell it, and then you get a small percentage of their sales. Conceptually, it sounds great, right? You can sit on your couch, you don't have to do any work. Somebody else is going to go out there and do all the marketing, manufacturing, and selling. But the reality is, Angela, it just doesn't happen like that. It doesn't go down that way. Really, to get a licensing deal, you need to have either sales or pre-orders up front. Because if you have sales or you've pre-sold your product or your software, you have demonstrated that there's a demand, right? Somebody's actually opened their wallet and they've pulled out their card and they've said yes. Even though it doesn't exist yet, or if you're selling it, it does exist, I'm willing to spend my money for it. And once you get to that point, it's so much easier to approach a company for a licensing deal because now you're going to stand above all of the other inventors and entrepreneurs that are approaching them just with a provisional patent, or sometimes even less, right? Sometimes an idea. And that's the other big fallacy that I see is people think that they can just have a raw kernel nucleus of an idea and that somebody's going to buy it. And again, this is just wishful thinking and something that you should get out of your mind because you're going to waste a lot of time and money chasing that leprechaun, that rainbow, so to speak. And then the other traditional way that I'd like to explore briefly before we get into the new way that you want to launch your product and app is what we call a done-for-you model. And a done-for-you model is basically where you think somebody else is going to make you successful. And let me tell you, Angela, and you know, working with all the CEOs and entrepreneurs over the years, no one can make you successful. It doesn't work that way. You can certainly show someone, you can mentor someone and allow them to become an entrepreneur. But if you think you're going to sit back on your couch and someone's going to make you successful, you know, again, this is a reality check here. It's just like the licensing method. You can't just sit back and expect someone to get you a licensing deal, just like you can't sit back and expect someone to make you a successful entrepreneur. So what it's really about is learning how to fish. Like the old analogy goes, right? You can give someone a fish and then they'll start the next day, or you can teach them how to fish and they can be an entrepreneur for their life and they can use the principles on future products and apps that they may have not even dreamt up yet. So those are all of the fallacies, the myths, all the traditional ways that I see entrepreneurs and inventors spinning their wheels, trying to go out there. And, you know, of course, they want a better life. I get it. But what I want to do is help focus them today and let them know what actually works and what they can do to get their product or app off the ground. So are you ready? Should we share the good stuff now?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. You really defined where most people are going wrong and also helping identify new ways to reach the market. It's very powerful. What kind of people do you see become entrepreneurs?
Well, that's a great question, Angela. But first I'd like to, you're a little ahead of me today, so I'm going to slow things down a little bit. I want to focus on, again, how we launch products, and then I'm going to dive into exactly who I see, the character type that becomes an entrepreneur, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely. It's an important question. So how does ProductMentor launch products?
Yeah, so what we do is we take a 3-step approach and we've coined it the fast launch system. And what it's really about, Angela, is leverage at the end of the day. When you figure out leverage as an entrepreneur, the whole game changes. And so let me illustrate with a couple examples. The first step in the fast launch system is to validate and most oftentimes refine, again, that nucleus, that kernel of an idea that you have. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this, but with COVID times and the way that society is today, one of the best ways that we found is to use online surveys. All right. What you want to do is listen to the customer and leverage what they tell you. And I know this is a simple concept, but the mantra that you want to think of is customer is king. It doesn't matter what you, the inventor, or you, the entrepreneur, want. All that matters is what the market wants. And this is one of the biggest reasons that I see people fail, is they're not giving the market what it wants. So again, we have to get past our egos, and we have to adjust our strategy and our niche to, again, meet the exact desires that your customer is looking for. So that's number one in the fast launch system. And again, you're leveraging so much time by finding these things out up front, instead of, again, back to the traditional way of making 10,000 units and then praying they sell, or building a really cool app that you think is cool, and then nobody downloads it. So again, just to offer the contrast again, compared to the traditional way of doing things. The second step in the fast launch system, Angela, is to pre-sell your product, your software, your app, or even a service. But it's all about selling it first. And by doing this, you're actually allowing your customer to finance your launch. I mean, who wouldn't want their customer to fund their actual launch of their new product or app? Yeah. It's a beautiful concept, and it works amazingly well if you know what you're doing. So not only does that take away the amount of money that you need to get to market, but it also reduces your risk tremendously. Think about it like this. Even if you had $1 million in your bank account today, and even if you could afford to just build your software, build your product all on your own without the help of your customers, would you really want to? And what I'm going to challenge everyone to consider today is that you wouldn't. Even if you had the capital to do it all yourself, it wouldn't make sense. And the reason is because it reduces your risk to let the customer actually buy it first. Because Angela, if they don't buy it, right, if no one's pulling out their credit card, then it's a litmus test. Right? You've just figured out up front, before you spent time and money, that you need to recalibrate, right? You need to pivot, as we like to say, and you need to go back to the drawing boards. And that's okay. It's much better to do that up front before you've actually built it than later on when it's a lot less forgiving.
Absolutely.
So that's number two. And obviously that's a lot of leverage as well, to let your customer finance your launch. And again, to validate your product or app even more. Number three is the launch itself. All right. And when you do the actual launch, you're going to need rocket fuel, so to speak. A lot of people refer to this as a marketing budget, right? And a lot of people out there, Angela, don't have a ton of money laying around to put into a marketing budget. I get it. I've been there. I know you've been there as well. And so as entrepreneurs, we have to bootstrap, right? We have to figure out how to leverage something else in order to launch efficiently. And my favorite strategy in doing this is to partner with a strategic list owner, right? Somebody that owns a list of customers that are very similar to the type of customer that you're after. I think an example would help in this scenario. Let's say you have a new pool product, for example. What you could do is you could go and you could find a national pool supplier that sells pool supplies to people across the country. Now, you already know that this list of people own a pool, because that is the nature of their customer. And what you can get them to do is introduce you and endorse you to their list, to their customer base. And what you do, Angela, is give them a rev share. So you would give them a percentage of the sales or the pre-orders, however you're launching. And in that way, no marketing budget is necessary. You're just giving them a percentage of every single person that actually buys the product or the software, the service, whatever it is. And so I think you can start to see why leverage is so important when you're launching your new product or app. And so if all you do is look at the traditional way and compare it to the new way, the way that we do it, it's very easy to see why this is the better way and the way that you should be launching your product and app.
Yeah, those are all really, really great points. So let me just run through the 3 real quick. It was the validate and refine based on your customer feedback, and then you're pre-selling it so your customers are funding your launch, and then you're launching by doing JV partnerships or somehow working with somebody who's already got to tap into that market.
Precisely. Leverage. That's what it's all about.
I love it. Okay, so that sounds like a lot of great information. Now, what type of people do become entrepreneurs that you've seen?
Well, there's 2 types of people. And again, I've been an entrepreneur over 20 years, and I've worked with a lot of people just like yourself. And really, I categorize them into 2 silos. All right. The first silo is people that care what other people think. All right. And this is most people, right? They're just, I don't know if it's self-esteem or if they're just not too sure of themselves, but for whatever reason, they just care more about what other people think than they do about that little voice in their head that is calling out to them to follow their passion. And so the second silo, the other group of people, is the opposite. They're people that don't care what other people think, right? They have that whatever it takes attitude. And they're the type of people that become entrepreneurs because they know that they're different, right? Friends, family, they might all think that you're a little crazy for wanting to start your own business, for wanting to launch your own product or app. And what I found, Angela, is that entrepreneurs are okay with being different, right? They understand that they're not like everybody else. And so for that reason, they don't care what other people think because they've decided and they're okay with being different.
That totally makes sense. It's very much what I've seen. It's people who are willing to take the chance. So how do you know if you believe in your idea enough to pursue it, no matter what others think? When do you take that chance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I touched on one of the points a second ago, but I'm going to say it again. If you have that small voice in your head, or maybe, Angela, that voice is getting louder, right? Maybe something that you or I have shared today is resonating with you, or maybe that voice is just getting louder because you keep seeing something out in the marketplace. Maybe it's the problem that you're trying to solve. But if you feel it within you and you just haven't really brought it to light, that's a very good sign that you should follow your passion. You should follow your dream. That feeling is there for a reason, right? Our gut instincts, as they say. A lot of people, though, they ignore their gut instincts, right? They go back into that normal daily grind, the rat race, family and job and whatever you want to call it, and they let it take them away from their true passion. So it's the little voice in the head. But the other thing is how you feel. I'm really big on the whole feeling thing because we all have this internal compass inside of us. And if you feel better when you're thinking about your brainchild, right? Your new idea, your product, your app, if it makes you feel good, that's probably a sign that there's an entrepreneur somewhere inside of you and you should let it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, that tugging inside, but then that's where it really gets important to launch it the way you're talking about, where not only are you finding that idea, but you want to make sure there's a market for it, a market willing to support it, a market willing to grow. And everything that you're doing in your launch program really supports that kind of entrepreneur who's ready to take a chance and make a big idea happen.
Exactly.
So Mike, I want to wrap it up. I know we're going to keep it to 20 minutes. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, I have a lot of them, but I know I don't have much time. So Here's my final thoughts for everybody today. And we're going to be doing these every single Friday. We have a ton of content that we want to share with you. So this is all just the tip of the iceberg. But there's a big difference between being alive and actually living. And so what you want to think about is your mortality is imminent, right? We're only here for so long. And so what you really have to sit yourself down and ask yourself is, how do I want to live, right? Because your life doesn't get better by chance, Angela. It gets better by choice. And we all have the choice. The thing is, most people just haven't made it yet. And so if you really want to advance in your life, and if you really want to live your true potential, then you need to go out there and you need to learn new skills. Now, some people, they go and they get a degree at college, right? Other people, they go out and they get a mentor. I actually have done both, and I know that you have as well. And what I can say after both going to college and having mentors, and by the way, I've probably spent more money on mentors at this point in my life than I have on my 4-year business degree. Well into the 6 figures on both. But what I can say from having both is that my mentors taught me how the real world works, right? Things that are actually applicable, things that actually work and get you traction now, today. And college tends to be more hypothetical, right? It tends to be more theory, or let's just say textbook, to be a little cliche-ish. And so that's the big thing. You got to go out there. You got to get support, because, doing it on your own takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And you can shortcut all of those things if you have somebody in your corner. And so if you have that voice in the back of your head, you should pursue your dream. Whether it's us or whether it's someone else, right? That's not important. What's important is that you get the support that you need one way or the other, because we all need it. The most successful people that I've met all have a mentor or somebody that they have that is continually developing them. It doesn't stop, right? Just because you become a successful entrepreneur, just because you become a multimillionaire, doesn't mean you stop getting mentoring, right? You're going to hit a plateau. You're going to keep hitting plateaus. And the only way to break through those throughout your life is to keep learning and keep getting mentors that can up your game.
Absolutely. That is so true. Like, an Olympic athlete doesn't get to the Olympic just by training when they're young. They constantly have mentors and coaches to continually propel them beyond and up and beyond their abilities to make them stronger, better, faster, smarter, and in our case, in business, more successful and really helping people. So I see we have ProductMentor as our website. Is that where people can go to find out more information and to learn how to get a consultation with one of your mentors?
Absolutely. If you have an idea and you don't know what to do with it, we'd be happy to go over your options, strategize with you, and show you how the fast launch system can help you.
Well, that's amazing, Mike. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add, or are we ready to get for our next Friday meeting where we're going to share some more exciting topics?
Yeah, tune in next Friday, everybody. We're going to be doing this weekly. And again, I am just so excited to share and to give back. And really, there's nothing I'm more passionate about than helping entrepreneurs. There's nothing that feels better, Angela, than making an impact on others. It actually feels better than even making money. And I know some of you are probably thinking, yeah, whatever, Mike, yeah, right. But just believe me on this. When you get to a certain point and you have enough money, what actually becomes meaningful is watching others and seeing the effect and the difference that you can make on them. So we'll see everybody next Friday, and stay tuned.